Let's talk J.R. Smith. Phil, he was drafted at age 18 into the league, one of these guys like LeBron. What do you remember from the early years in New York?
Uh, all those early years, New York, Denver, all them. Just
Yeah.
I remember, I remember seeing a guy who I was like, "Okay, you're like." We just got off like Vinsanity, right? Seeing this 6'6", 200-pound guy who could fly in the air, hit brutal shots. And when you saw J.R. Smith, you looked at him and you're like, one of the most athletic guys at his position. Had a great shot, maybe streaky at the time, and he had all the ability in the world. He's always been that guy to me that never put it together. And it it hurts that some players need it to be at the latter parts of their career to have the mental fortitude to really maximize that. And I think that like he was one of the big reasons why personalities and these individual interviews in the draft process are so important now, because you look at a guy like him, like Michael Beasley and different guys, like who knows if Beasley pulls it together, but it took him something real and playing with LeBron and everything you're about to go into to actually maximize on his God-given talent. I mean, talent-wise, he's always been way up there for me.
Yeah, there's a book called The Hoops Whisperer, which I really recommend, about a guy who trains all the superstars in the summer. And all the guys like Mel and LeBron have always said JR is by far one of the most talented guys they've ever played with. He just hasn't put it together, like Phil mentioned. Justin, in terms of Nightlife, what's your favorite story with JR?
Oh God, what can I even repeat? Obviously, I believe it was during a playoff game where he was attempting to flirt with Rihanna. That was funny. There was a story Lil Wayne had shared on, I believe it was Highly Questionable this year, about how him and JR were both kind of hitting on the same girl. Lil Wayne left with one of her friends, and then JR like goes to the same hotel room with the other girl, and they walk into the same room. And there's some confusion from the girls not knowing that they were friends, because of course he's friends with Lil Wayne. So yeah, Nightlife has been a big part of the story for JR, and definitely provides some comedic relief.
There's a really great story, Phil. I think all of us have read it by Windhorst at ESPN about the changes he's made in his life the last year or so, and it involves his daughter, who's about 7 now. And he was attempting to take her used toys that she wasn't using anymore and give them away to charity. And she said to him, "Daddy, what are you going to sacrifice?" And he took those words to heart and started focusing more at the defensive end. Phil, how have you seen him change?
I've seen him go from someone who, Justin can attest to this, how I've spoken about him years past, his defensive liability, who's just kind of a six-man, heat check guy off the bench, to a guy who I actually understand why they start him over Iman Shumpert now. Before I didn't. I was like, okay, well, Shumpert to me was before the superior defensive player, and you need that next to Kyrie, next to Love, next to LeBron. You want a guy who doesn't demand shots, and you want points off the bench. But looking at his defense against guys like Kyle Korver and even Klay Thompson, like even when Klay Thompson scores and has decent nights, he's not having Klay Thompson type nights. Like, he is on him. His rotations are fantastic. His presence is fantastic. I remember when he picked up his third foul last night in their game, I was actually tweeting that this is actually a big deal, because he, to me, is one of their best defenders at this point. You would have never said this a few years back. Taking that and adding a better shot selection. He hits open threes. He takes some contested shots, but it's not nearly on the level where he used to. And in a league where being a 3-and-D guy is incredibly valuable, he's transcending his game. In that same article, he was looking at guys like Jimmy Butler, guys like Chris Middleton, guys like
Kobe,
Maflalo and Kobe, and guys who play both sides of the game, and how not only do they have longer staying roles, but they get the big contracts. Like he was just opting out of a $6 million contract when guys who play both sides of the ball are getting massive money. And in his talent, he should be doing that.
Justin's he going to get paid?
Yeah, I think he's going to get paid. I think when the trade initially went down with New York, where they moved Dion Waiters to OKC, they got a first-round pick, Iman Shumpert, and JR. the intention was for Amon Shumpert to be the starter. I think Shumpert is likely a candidate to be moved this summer, possibly with Kevin Love, possibly on his own. I know they were targeting Ben McLemore, who, while he does have upside, there is some sentiment in Sacramento that they want to move on from him, so maybe that becomes a target. But with the maturation of J.R. Smith, I think it's likely that the Cavs do reward him, and it does get a contract with them. Probably more significant money, maybe not as many years, because you still have to keep a little bit of a leash on JR. It's great to see this growth, but the story of JR has always been growth, setback, growth, setback. He was fantastic for Denver when they reached the Western Conference Finals. He's huge for New York when they had big runs, but those moments were followed by setbacks. So I think you still have to have some sort of a leash there. I do think the changes are legitimate with him. I think the desire is legitimate for him to change his reputation around the league. But for those reasons, I think there still is some trepidation when it comes to general managers in terms of how many years he's going to get.